Today we're going to talk about if the Necronomicon and the Cthulhu mythos are real. Grimoires or spellbooks and ancient beings, they have existed in man's tales since the first civilization. The oldest creation story, the Enuma Elish from the Sumerians, has elder beings fighting against these younger gods, and most of the battle is done through incantations. Many famous grimoires have existed, pretty much all of them equally as apocryphal as the Necronomicon, such as the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Grand Grimoire. Now, Lovecraft claimed he was writing fiction and denied the existence of the Necronomicon. Now, it's true that his books are works of fiction and they're creations of his mind. But then the question we have to ask is what influences the mind? A lot of his inspiration came from dreams and nightmares. These chthonic and underworld beings, the ancient ones, they're dream gods and underworld gods. Who is to say they don't have influence into the subconscious? This is a Mesopotamian incantation bowl. Man has been fighting against entities for as long as he has existed. Both Lovecraft and Crowley had a lot of inspiration from the Sumerian religion. These are just a few examples of some names or concepts shared between them. The crux of the argument is that the same forces or entities that inspired the Sumerian religion could have easily have inspired the likes of Lovecraft and even Crowley. But every holy book or holy text, such as the Christian Bible, its practitioners claim that it had some divine inspiration or some divine hand played a role in its creation and its formation. The same thing can be said for something that was ultimately written as a fiction. And just because something is fiction doesn't mean there aren't themes of reality in it. Even if that reality is incomprehensible, that's simply because we're limited in our perception. But even so, the description he gives his ancient ones could just be his interpretation and not necessarily accurate to what they are. The interesting thing about horror is it has its own archetypes. It has its own dedicated slice of the collective unconscious. There are themes shared in horror that seems to be fundamental to it as a concept, which is probably a reflection of how it really is. The main theme being that knowledge and power is commensurate with sickness and insanity. The more you delve into occult mysteries, the more mad you become. And even within the most ancient grimoires, the idea that these entities contain knowledge of science, of astrology, of magic, and all kinds of things, and that they will take an essence of you or take part of your soul. If sickness and insanity is something that can happen as a result, then there is a physical element to this. That same physical element could be the cause as well as the source of knowledge. In this TV show, The Haunting of Hill House, the haunted house is full of black mold. The argument would be that it is the mold that is causing this haunting. The Egyptians, especially with their pharaohs, they would fill their tombs with curses. And if you disturbed those tombs, the curse would be unleashed. For some of these tombs that they've excavated, they've found rare and deadly species of fungus. So who's to say that it wasn't the incantations which were able to summon or to bring out or to attract this fungus? Or in other cases, parasites or bacteria or protozoans. Now this is something anyone can test out with jars of cooked rice. You could take this experiment further and fill one jar with incantations and sigils and symbols, one for protection and the other for curse, and see if the mold grows differently. Even for witchcraft, one of the most powerful sources of magic was graveyard mold. But if we're looking for invisible ancient entities, both beautiful and horrifying, we have that in the form of microorganisms. They are millions and hundreds of millions of years old. Most of them are highly efficient at passing down knowledge to the next generation, and their particular individuation is not understood. When they form colonies, in the case of like a bacteria or a fungus, they are able to work together and communicate, but they're also capable of breaking away and making their own decisions. For some, maybe it is like a hive mind. For others, maybe it is very individualistic, and still others may have a form of consciousness or hyper-consciousness that we don't understand. Things like mold seem to be able to act with some super awareness as if it's some kind of meta entity. But where this idea of inspiration, whether it's divine inspiration or inspiration through nightmares and terror, is that when these ancient beings enter your body or invade your body, that they're able to communicate with the central nervous system, and so idea and knowledge can be shared even as they drain your own health. H.P. Lovecraft was certainly a very sick person in many different ways. The microorganisms that existed when humans first lived are the same ones that still exist today. So we should all probably be filling our houses with writings and spells and prayers and incantations and symbols and etchings and carvings, which is pretty natural to every religion. You put icons and you say prayers, or you do other kinds of rituals and incantations to invoke positive beings and to drive away any of the negative ones. Or in the case of occultists, it's kind of the opposite. They wish to commune with those ones at the cost of their own health. So I guess that's my take on the Necronomicon. Thanks for watching.